and welcome to the Sage and Whiskey Podcast. I'm your host, Nataly Lorraine, and welcome to episode 4. I'm getting the hang of this, guys. I recorded videos for a while, but I really like the podcast. So much simpler for me. And it seems like it takes away from the aesthetics of feeling like you have to look 100% your best all the time. And I can focus on what's really important, which is the message. Alright, so we're going to hop right into it for the tarot forecast for the week. Now, if you do not know, we have a Scorpio full moon coming up on the 7th. Okay, Scorpio new moon is our last super moon of the year, so it has a lot of punch to it. So what I'm getting for this particular new moon or full moon, is to have compassion. And if, as you see what's happening right now in the world, is that we're having a polarity of greed and compassion. So the Scorpio supermoon is calling for all of us to be a little less greedy and a little bit more compassionate. And also I pulled 3 cards, which is I have the alchemy card, discernment, and patterns. This is basically telling the collective that we have to stop ignoring our gut and our intuition. And we have to honor what we feel. A lot of us have been raised in a way where we were not able to fully express ourselves, or we were not taught the tools that will allow us to communicate effectively to others and to properly analyze a decision and make a decision that is best not only for you, for all that are involved. So with this paradigm shift, it's another layer to it, which starts with you. Okay, so it's important for you to break these patterns. A lot of you might have seen the patterns that you may have resurfaced in the beginning of this year, which I say started in March, and it's just a little check-in to make sure that you are moving forward in the ways that you said that you were going to do better this year. So you might have that X popping up. You might have that family scenario pop up again, where you're going to have to test your spiritual and growth and maturity. And it's just saying that also just believe in yourself. I know that sounds so cliche, but it's really, everything starts with you. How you feel about yourself is how you allow other people to treat you. So with this forecast, it's saying it's time for the transformation. The patterns are changing. You are stepping in. You're taking the final say so on your fate, and you will be just fine. So make your final decisions and move forward. Right, I'm going to move on to my sage tip of the week, which is something that is very dear to me, and I feel like it's not discussed enough in this realm, and that is honoring your ancestors. So when it comes to any type of spiritual practice, a lot of them, especially African American, not African American, African ATRs, African traditional spiritualities and religions, they all start with the basis premises of your ancestors, your lineage. And I have seen a lot of people kind of jumping and on the bandwagon and getting straight into the gods and the goddesses of the world, or the saints. It doesn't matter which one that you gravitate to, they all have the same premise. Is that we come from somewhere. We come from living, breathing people that were here on this earth before we were even thought of. And their energy still lives within us. And also, if you want to say outside of us, however you want to refer to it. So, with that being said, do not idolize or worship or honor, however you want to use that terminology. Gods and goddesses, orishas, before you get right with your ancestors, because it's a hierarchy. And if you do not understand the hierarchy, you're going to get in trouble. I saw a post in one of the groups that I was talking, that I'm a part of. I'm not even 100% true that this girl is real. I didn't do like fact check or anything, but essentially it was this Caucasian woman that decided that she wanted to dabble in voodoo, essentially, and call on Papa Legba. Papa Legba is a very popular deity that many people have become familiar with it because he is in a lot of films and TV shows. I know he was in The Princess and the Frog, the Disney movie that I can't stand. He was also in American Horror Story, in their Coven, and their last one, Apocalypse, or that wasn't the last one, but the one where they had both the witches, voodoo and Wicca, essentially working together in some form or fashion to defeat the spawn of Satan. But Papa Legba just pops up, and everybody and their mama feels just because they see something that they can do it. So with her, I'm assuming that she had some type of lineage that she could have called upon before hopping, skipping, and jumping to Papa Legba. Essentially, your ancestors are your first go-to, and they will be able to let you know if you should be working with these other spirits. Now, I would recommend you going to whatever religion that is or practice and getting a priest or priestess, those particular people that hold that particular stature in that religion, to do a reading or divination to find out who is in your spiritual court. But you don't have to do all that. Your family is really all you really need. You don't have to veer into all of these other deities. You don't have to. You find that one family member or a couple family members that rock with you, you're good. And honoring them is not as complicated as many people think it is. It's simply having some space in your home, setting up candle, glass of water, and some type of memento that reminds you of them. You don't even have to have the candle, the water, but it's good because you want to have the four elements present: earth, wind, or earth, fire, water, air. But do that, guys. Do that. Talk to them daily. Set aside. Find out what they like. Build that relationship. Because I promise you, half the stuff you calling on Oshun, you calling on Ogun, you calling on Saint Michael, Saint Santa Merte, you calling on all these people that's not even in your bloodline. You skipping over the people that really ride for you. Start there before you jump. I don't this with this girl in this particular thing. Apparently she died suddenly, And a lot of us have speculated that it's because she was playing with stuff she shouldn't have been playing with. And that kind of touches on what I was talking about last week, is the spiritual fries. I'm pretty sure somebody told her that it was okay for her to do this, and she thought it was okay. That stay in your lane. Honor your ancestors. Is really hard to go wrong if you just stick to your ancestors. If you feel that you have the tools to go forward with something else, then reach out to people that you know have that information, and you can go from there. But honor your ancestors. Find out what type of food they like. Put them on the table. I know with mine, my ancestor that essentially watches over me likes sweets, likes I've learned, you kind of learn trial and error. Doesn't really like certain types of wines. Doesn't like a certain type of candy. Doesn't like a certain kind of liquor. But a lot of times I'll be in stores and I'll be guided. I'll be like, oh, I don't really normally reach for this item, so I know this probably is not for me. Might seem weird to you guys, but I feel a lot safer staying in that lane than hopping all over the place and contacting spirits that are not in my spiritual cord, that I don't have no business or working with. Stay with your ancestors. All else fails, they are your ground zero, they are your formation, your foundation. You don't have to veer from them. They are enough. But if you want to, if you're trying to do certain things, sometimes you might have to reach to those other deities, but start with honoring your ancestors. I promise you, you will not regret it. And a lot of times I want you to say, to remember, honoring them and asking for them for stuff are two different things. Every time you talk to them, just think about if anybody you know that you care about. Every time you call them, do you be asking them people for $50? I need $100. I need this. A lot of you, that's how you sound. Honor them. Just be like, hey, thanks for all you do. Keep it pushing. Refill them. Make sure that your altar is clean. Wipe things down. Make sure there's no dust. Make sure if you have food offerings, make sure they're not rotten. It's really straightforward, and I think many people can do it. You just got to keep it simple. And that's really my my sage tip for today. I'm going to move on to the fun stuff, my media spotlight. Now, I'm going to talk about my favorite movies of 2019. I had 5, but I'm going to give my top 3, and then I'm going to give my 2 honorable mentions. Because when I really thought about it, they made the cut, but they didn't really make the cut. My favorite movie, hands down, for 2019 is Parasite. Now, if you haven't heard of Parasite, you must have been sleeping under a rock, because this movie was so good that I've seen it 3 times. I saw it twice in the theater, and I've seen it again on Hulu, which it is now, right now. It is a Korean film. It does have subtitles. So, if you are the type of person that can't follow the words on the bottom of the screen in English, this film is not for you. I'm pretty sure there will probably be a dub version coming. I just don't feel like they should do that. But if that's the only way that you're going to be able to access this film, then that's fine. But it is on Hulu. It's I would classify it as like a horror, satire horror, kind of like Us and Get Out, in a way where it's touching on really deep topics within a society and just making you think, like, who is really the victim here? Who is really, the whole premise of the movie is like, who really is the parasite? And what is wrong with our society that this is happening? I'm not going to go too in depth, but it's essentially playing on classism and how we view a person's worth in this society based on their wealth or their lack of wealth. Great film, won an Oscar, won a whole bunch of other awards. It is worth it. Top movie at 2019. I don't regret seeing it. I can watch this movie over and over and never get tired of it. Second is Uncut Gems. Now, this is a movie, the movie with Adam Sandler. Listen, that movie had me on the edge of my seat the entire movie. I legit felt like I was on a roller coaster ride. And there are very few movies that can elicit that sort of emotional response from me and me continue with it and want to see what's happening. So Adam Sandler in this movie, he's a jeweler, high end, deals with the celebrities, basketball players, this, that, and the third, does the chains and whatnot. He acquires this stone, this crystal, which I love because I'm all about crystals. And the whole movie is about the spiritual, essentially the spiritual power of this stone and how Adam Sandler life changes when he acquires the stone throughout the movie. So I don't want to give too much away. I just want to say it's a serious role with Adam Sandler. I didn't look and see if he got an award for this movie, but he should have. And some people said that the movie was boring and it was just like being on drugs or whatnot. I think it was an excellent film. I think it was well played. It's not a perfect film. There are some parts of it I was just like, they could have left that out. But overall, this movie is good. I wouldn't I wouldn't watch it with small children. It is rated R. They are cursing up a storm in this film. There are some humor. There are some newcomer actresses that I feel like will get some more shine in other films. I think this was an excellent role for Adam Sandler. It lets us know that he is capable of the hard-hitting, more serious roles. Even though in this particular role, he could have just been playing someone that he grew up with, which is fine as long as you do it well. The next movie I would say is a movie that I didn't even really mean to go see, but somehow my ass ended up watching it. I think it was because I saw something serious that day and I wanted to do something light, but it ended up being serious as well. So I didn't read what it was about. I just looked at it and was like, oh, I'm going to go see that. Tom Hanks, A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood. So essentially, this is about Mr. Rogers. Now, I am a 90s baby, so I grew up watching Mr. Rogers on PBS. It was a great show, touched on so many serious topics, and I did not realize that until I watched this film. So it's one of those films where it's like a documentary, but not really. So it's taking a character, a journalist, and he is interviewing Mr. Rogers in this film, and it shows how their lives are intertwined. Their lives become intertwined, and Mr. Rogers ends up influencing this reporter. And it's showing like two lives at once, and it also shows the series. Like, it also shows the Mr. Rogers show and how he films. I think it was very well put together. If you watch Mr. Rogers, they still put how they do like a freeze frame of a person, a picture, and then zoom in on that storyboard that he has. I just really like how they put these elements that were originally just for the TV show into the movie and how it works and kind of updating it, giving it more depth. Great film. Tom Hanks, spot on. His wife, great. The characters. This was just I went into this movie with no expectations, and I was pleasantly surprised. I don't know what, I tried to look and see what platforms it's on, but a lot of these movies you can buy on YouTube right now. I know we're all still on lockdown and movie theaters have not reopened, but I would go see this film. So those are my top 3 movies of 2019, and my honorable mentions are Bombshells and Queen and Slim. Bombshells stars, oh my god, I can't think of her name right now. Anyways, it's about the reporters on Fox News and how the type of sexual harassment they have to endure in this field. And it was really fun for me, or not fun, interesting for me to see, because I am as progressive as they come, and a lot of times anything that deals with that network, I I sort of shy away from. But this, I try to keep an open mind as well. I went into it and was like, what? I didn't even watch the previews. A lot of movies that I recommend, I don't watch the previews. I just go in blind and form an opinion after I've seen it. So this one was a great cast. It elicited a lot of emotional responses from me. I felt like I was there. I felt like I was the person experiencing different moments. That's very good for a director or an actor to be able to portray. And it gave me an inside scoop of this particular sector of women that I had no idea about. I mean, at the end of the day, it shows that they're all women and we're all experiencing this patriarchy together. We just navigate them a little bit differently. And lastly, but not least, is Queen and Slim. I would say I love Queen and Slim because of the soundtrack. It is dope, dope, dope. The storyline was good. I didn't agree with everything, but I liked how it doesn't have a happy endings per se. And I think that is why I got a lot of criticism, because a lot of times the movies that we do have that represent people of color, especially black people in America, they do not have a happy ending. But this was well written, well directed, well, what do you call it, scored. So check that out. And boom, boom, my whiskey recommendation of the day, of the week, is a new whiskey I picked up. I had never seen this one before. It's 40 Bridges. It's a Canadian whiskey. It's $20 for a full 750 milliliter bottle. So that is a score, score, score. And a lot of people don't know a lot about Canadian whiskey, except for Crown Royal, which is, I would say, the most popular Canadian whiskey that many people drink. Some people don't even know it's whiskey, but I have I have had every type of Crown Royal there is. It's all right. It's a good bang for your buck, but there are cheaper, and this is significantly cheaper than Crown Royal. Smooth taste. It's not flavored. Just your straight run-of-the-mill whiskey. Check it out, guys. 40 Bridges. Laura. I'm sorry, 40 Creek. I don't know where I got 40 Bridges. I think it had to do with that movie, 21 Bridges. How I chose it, I have a recipe for you guys. I did a little spin on the amaretto sour, so I call it Southern Nights. Just came up with it like it. So 3 ounces of the 40 Creek Canadian whiskey, 1 ounce of amaretto, half an ounce of lemon juice. Shake, serve over ice. It's great by itself, chilled. Has a lot of caramel tones. It's a little sweet on its own. So with amaretto and the lemon juice, it kind of balance it out. A good run-of-the-mill whiskey, $20 a bottle. You cannot beat that. and I will be buying it again. So thanks for hanging out with me. I will be back next week. I finally figured out how to upload this to YouTube. YouTube let me be great the first week, and the other 2 weeks I was frustrated, but your girl is back. So you make sure you check on Wednesdays at 6 p.m. for a new episode. Thank you so much and have a great week.